The South African sun beats down on the rugged landscape of the Witwatersrand Hills. The year is 1886, and the air is filled with the anticipation of a lone prospector, George Harrison, as he navigates the rocky terrain, his trusty pickaxe in hand. The hills stretch out before George, a vast and undulating expanse of golden grass and rocky outcrops. In the distance, the shimmering high quartzite ridges, a landscape on the verge of transformation. The sound of insects fills the air, creating a symphony of anticipation. They say every rock tells a story, but today, these hills are about to shout their tale. As George climbs higher, the landscape becomes more rugged, the rocks beneath his boots echoing with the untold secrets of centuries past. The air carries a sense of mystery, as if the land itself is holding its breath for what's about to unfold. The sun casts long shadows as George reaches a plateau, and he pauses to wipe the sweat from his face. He looks out across the vastness of the Witwatersrand Basin, a panoramic view that seems to stretch to infinity. In the distance, a herd of springboks grazes peacefully, unaware of the impending discovery that will change the fate of this land. The hills seem to be alive with the promise of hidden treasures. Suddenly, George stumbles over an uneven patch of ground, his pickaxe striking a rock with a distinctive clang. He examines the rock, wiping away the dirt to reveal a shiny substance beneath. A glint of gold, right in the heart of Witwatersrand. Well, he'd be damned. He chuckles to himself, a mixture of disbelief and excitement in his eyes. Little does he know, this chance discovery will set in motion a series of events that will shape the destiny of South Africa. One can debate the romanticism present in various versions of historical accounts from this day, but it is undeniable that the subsequent events would have the stage set for the gold rush that would propel the city of Johannesburg into the annals of history. Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. Get ready to embark on an electrifying journey with us as we dive into the incredible transformation of Johannesburg, from a humble mining camp to a world-class African city. This is one wild ride you won't want to miss, so buckle up and let's dive into the thrilling journey together.
Normal baobab.
As we peer into the tapestry of history, let me dispel the shadows that hang over the man known as George Harrison, credited with no small amount of certainty for unearthing the beating heart of Witwatersrand's riches. But what is this Witwatersrand that we speak of? The word itself is a mouthful, but it's got a story as rich as the gold it cradles. It is a place located in the present-day South African province of Gauteng. Wit, that's Dutch for white, and Watersrand, well, that's a bit of a poetic twist. It means ridge of white waters. So, in plain English, we're talking about the White Waters Ridge. Why'd they call it that? Legend has it that the quartz pebbles in the Witwatersrand rivers sparkled like diamonds, making the waters look white. So, there you have it, a name born from the glint of stones in the stream. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this land became the El Dorado of South Africa. Picture this, a basin, not your breakfast cereal kind, but a geological marvel that stretches for miles. The Witwatersrand Basin, to be precise. This basin is like Mother Nature's treasure chest. And here's the science behind it. Millions of years ago, we're talking way back in the Paleoproterozoic era, ancient rivers laid down sediments. These sediments, over time, turned into what we call conglomerate rocks, rocks that look innocent but hold gold secrets. Now cue the tectonic drama. Earth's plates decide to tango, shifting and shimmying those conglomerate rocks deeper into the crust. It's like nature's slow-cooked recipe for gold, with the heat and pressure turning those sediments into gold-bearing reefs. Fast forward to George, standing on the hills of Witwatersrand in 1886. We've got these ancient reefs packed with gold, just waiting for someone to stumble upon them. So, it's not just dumb luck that made this place a gold mine, pun intended. It's the epic geological saga, the perfect storm of ancient rivers, shifting plates, and a dash of magic that turned Witwatersrand into a gold paradise. Given the fact that this land was filled with so much gold, it's time to address the elephant in the room. Was George Harrison really the first person to catch a glimpse of that shiny gold? Well, let's peel back the layers of time and set the record straight. Claiming that George Harrison was the first person to lay eyes on the gold in Witwatersrand is like saying the sun rises just for your morning coffee. It's a bit too much, isn't it? Some historical accounts say we've got John Garrett back in 1884 doing the gold prospecting cha-cha on Vogelstruisfontein. The Struben brothers were out in 84, not exactly on a Sunday stroll, uncovering the Confidence Reef on Wilgesprut. And that's just the tip of the gold-laden iceberg. Witwatersrand has seen its fair share of folks wandering about, dreaming of striking it rich. We've got miners, prospectors, and probably a couple of lost travelers who took a wrong turn and stumbled upon a shiny rock or two. We can delve even deeper into the historical layers of Witwatersrand to uncover a chapter that predates the arrival of Europeans, a tale of ancient mines where the land itself whispered the secrets of gold long before the prospectors of the 19th century. We're talking about a time when the original inhabitants of this region were navigating the hills and valleys. These folks weren't just hunter-gatherers, they were miners too. Yes, you heard that right, ancient miners. Let's broaden our perspective and acknowledge a truth that might seem unimaginable to us today. Southern Africa, as a whole, is a tapestry woven with the threads of ancient mines, a rich history that predates the bustling gold rush of the 19th century. Archaeological discoveries across the region reveal that these communities were tapping into the earth for various resources long before the idea of prospecting for gold took root. Gold, copper, iron, ochre, and other valuable materials were extracted with a deep understanding of the land's offerings. In the Mapungubwe Kingdom, for instance, situated at the confluence of the Limpopo and Shashe rivers, archaeologists unearthed evidence of an advanced society that mined and traded gold. And this wasn't a minor operation. It was a bustling hub of industry that flourished somewhere between the 9th and 13th centuries. Fast forward to the Great Zimbabwe era, and you've got another chapter in the story of Southern Africa's ancient mines. The Great Zimbabwe ruins, with their impressive stone structures, bear witness to a society that engaged in gold mining, trade, and a level of architectural prowess that continues to captivate historians. So, when we talk about ancient mines in Southern Africa, it's not just a local phenomenon. It's a narrative that spans across borders and centuries. It's a story of resourcefulness, trade, and the deep connection between the people and the land. The Blauwbank ochre mine, for instance, dates back thousands of years. It's nestled in the hills, and the San people were digging into the earth, not for gold, but for ochre. It's like they unknowingly laid the groundwork for the golden chapter that Witwatersrand was destined to witness. But that's a story for another day. On back to George Harrison, an Australian prospector with an eye for more than just the horizon. His findings on the Langlagte farm, whether by serendipity or calculated pursuit, would resonate through the ages. Back at home in Australia, our mate George caught wind of a faraway place called Witwatersrand in South Africa. Why? because the winds were whispering tales of gold nuggets practically begging to be found. Imagine an Aussie adventurer, hat low, boots dusty, squinting at the horizon and thinking, yeah, I reckon I'll give that a go. The skeptics might scoff at the idea of a chance encounter. Was it luck, they pondered, or the calculated dance of a man well versed in the language of rocks? What remains indisputable is that George Harrison's pickaxe, against all odds, struck a chord that reverberated through time. It wasn't the first discovery, nor would it be the last, but it was here, amidst the Langlaat rocks, that George Harrison's name was engraved in the ledger of history. What made George's find more significant wasn't just the glitter of gold in his pan, it was the sheer magnitude of what he stumbled upon. Langlaat became the heart of the Witwatersrand gold rush, the epicenter that transformed this land into a gold rush drawing fortune seekers from far and wide. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The news of George's gold find reaches far beyond the dusty hills of South Africa. It's like a beacon for fortune seekers worldwide. Cue the arrival of prospectors, dreamers, and adventurers from every nook and cranny of the globe. First up, we've got the Brits. Gold in the colonies, they're packing their bags faster than you can say jolly good show. But it's not just the Brits. Germans, Americans, French, you name it. They're all hopping on boats, dreaming of nuggets the size of cricket balls. What about the Chinese gold rush crew? Yup, you heard that right. News of Witwatersrand's golden bounty reaches the ears of Chinese miners, and they're like, South Africa, here we come. They set sail, and soon you've got a multicultural prospecting party that makes the United Nations look like a local book club. Italians, too, decide they want a slice of the gold pie. Now, the hills of Witwatersrand are alive with the sounds of different accents, languages, and probably a few heated debates over whose grandma makes the best pasta. As more discoveries are made, the excitement spreads like wildfire. Witwatersrand isn't just a gold field, it's the El Dorado of the 19th century. And how do people back home find out? Well, that's where the media comes in. Newspapers become the social media of the 1800s. They're filled with stories of gold, tales of adventure, and probably a fair share of exaggeration. You've got folks in London reading about the golden dreams of Witwatersrand, sipping their tea and thinking, well, I say, pack my bags, we're off to South Africa. The hills become a magnet for all sorts. Not just the gold-crazy dreamers, you've got the gamblers, the risk-takers, and probably a few snake oil salesmen trying to peddle their ware to the unsuspecting gold rush crowd. Picture a shady character selling a surefire method to find gold. Step right up, folks. Just sprinkle this magical dust on your pickaxe, and you'll strike gold every time. Limited time offer. And then there are the lucky ones, the ones who do strike it big. The hills are alive with the clinking of gold pans, the laughter of those who hit the jackpot, and the occasional whoop of triumph from someone who's just uncovered a nugget the size of a potato. So you've got these blokes fresh off the boat, setting up tents faster than you can say, "G'day." But this isn't your average camping trip. These tents are popping up like mushrooms after rain, forming a makeshift town that's more canvas than brick. It's the late 1880s, and Witwatersrand is not just a whisper anymore. It's a roaring chorus of pickaxes, dreams, and the occasional clash of ambitions. What started as a prospector's paradise is now turning into a bustling tent town, a place where fortune seekers lay their hats and dreams on the rocky ground. It's not just an international party. Europeans who have settled this land long enough to call it home, and indigenous Africans are a major part of the unfolding scene. They are being recruited from as far away and wide as Mozambique and Malawi. Suddenly, the landscape is dotted not just with tents, but with the faces of people who've called this land home long before the gold rush fever hit. It's not all business. There's a cultural exchange happening too. Picture a Chinese miner teaching an African worker how to use chopsticks, or an Aussie swapping bush tales with a local elder under the African stars. It's a scene straight out of a multicultural sitcom with a golden backdrop. As the 1890s roll in, these towns are no longer just rowdy outposts. They're growing up. Johannesburg, the town that started as a camp, is now wearing the crown of the Witwatersrand. The tent city has become a metropolis, and the landscape is changing faster than a prospector chasing a rumor of a big nugget. It's like the tent town had a growth spurt. Ferreira's camp, for instance, wasn't just a camp anymore. It was becoming a proper town. Pubs, brothels, and general stores. You name it, they had it. And the names? Well, let's just say the creativity was flowing like the nearby rivers. Rudaport, for example, literal translation, Red Gate. Not the most imaginative, but hey, it worked. Let's talk dollars and cents. The economy of these towns isn't just nuggets changing hands. It's evolving into a proper gold rush economy. Banks, industries, and commerce are setting up shop, turning these towns into economic powerhouses. Suddenly, it's not just prospectors with pouches full of gold dust. There are proper bank accounts and transactions happening. It's like the Wild West, but with a bit more sophistication and a lot more gold. But it's not just banks. Industries are booming. Brick kilns, timber mills, you name it. They're springing up like daisies. The landscape is changing not just from pickaxes and shovels, but from the hum of machinery and the clink of coins. As the gold fills the pans and the money keeps rolling, the pickaxe and pan aren't the only tools in town anymore. Mining technology is making strides. Cyanide processes, stamp mills, these are the new rock stars of the gold rush scene. It's like the miners went from banging rocks together to becoming mad scientists. Cyanide is suddenly not just a sinister word, it's a game changer in gold extraction. And stamp mills? They're not sending postcards. They're crushing ore into fine particles, extracting gold like a finely tuned orchestra. But of course, it's not all serious. Miners are probably joking about how cyanide sounds like a villain in a melodrama, and stamp mills? Well, they're the rock stars of the mining world, crushing it like it's the opening act of a gold rush concert. Miners with dirt-streaked faces, swapping jokes in the dim light of a tavern. Imagine the laughter echoing through the hills. The question remains, why did Witwatersrand stand out from many other gold rushes of the same age? You've got your classic California gold rush, the Aussie Bonanza in Victoria, and the Klondike up in Canada, to name a few. Now, let's toss Witwatersrand into the mix and see how this golden showdown unfolds. The California gold rush kicked off in 1848, and you've got prospectors swarming like bees to honey. But here's the kicker. While they were scrambling for nuggets in the American West, Witwatersrand was biding its time. It's like the gold reserves in South Africa were playing the long game, waiting for the right moment to drop the golden bombshell. Now, fast forward to the Aussie gold rush in Victoria. They struck gold in 1851, and boy did they make a fuss. But wait for it. Witwatersrand is still in the shadows, quietly amassing gold like it's planning the greatest surprise party in history. And then there's the Klondike gold rush up in Canada, starting in the late 1890s. It's like the world can't get enough of gold fever. But guess what? Witwatersrand is not just joining the party. It's about to host the grandest celebration of them all. It's all about the vastness of the gold reserves. See, in California they hit pay dirt, but the easy pickings didn't last long. Same goes for Victoria. They found gold, but it was like a one-night stand with Lady Luck. Witwatersrand, on the other hand, had gold reserves that seemed bottomless. It's like the hills were a treasure chest waiting to be opened. The gold wasn't just a sprinkle, it was a glittering carpet beneath the Earth's surface. Imagine you're a prospector there. It's not just a flash in the pan. The gold reserves are so vast that the tent town doesn't pack up and leave like a traveling circus. It evolves into small towns, then proper towns, and finally, the golden grandeur that is Johannesburg city. It's not just a rush, it's a marathon, a slow burn that turns transient camps into permanent residences. Other gold rushes might have been like a summer fling, but Witwatersrand is a lifelong commitment. It's like the party in the hills never stops, it just moves to a bigger venue. Pubs become breweries, tent taverns turn into grand hotels, and the landscape transforms from canvas to concrete. And now the city's formal debut. Johannesburg wasn't just a name on the map. It was officially recognized as a city in 1928. But wait, how did it get its name? Well, here's a fun fact. It's named after two guys, Johann Rissik and Christian Johannes Joubert. Real creative, right? The city elders were probably sitting around a table, brainstorming names for their bustling metropolis. Someone suggests Johann, someone else Johannes Joubert. And then, in a stroke of genius, or perhaps convenience, they decide, let's just combine them. Johannesburg it is. And just like that, the city gets its birth certificate. Johannesburg is no longer just a collection of buildings and streets. It's a proper city with a name that rolls off the tongue like a jazz melody. Investors, financiers, and business magnates, you name it, they were all eyeing Joburg like it was the belle of the ball. The city wasn't just a gold mine, it was an investment haven. Gold might be the golden ticket, but the allure of Joburg's diversified industries was like a siren's call to the business world. As the city attracted more money, it started sprouting skyscrapers like mushrooms after rain. Suddenly, Joburg's skyline wasn't just hills and mine dumps, it was a testament to the city's economic prowess. The gold might be underground, but the wealth was rising to the top. It's like Joburg put out a casting call for every profession under the sun, and people from all walks of life answered. The city wasn't just about pickaxes and panning anymore. It was a canvas waiting to be painted with the strokes of diverse professions. And the cultural scene, it was booming. Theaters, music halls, and art galleries became the heartbeat of Joburg. The city wasn't just a business hub. It was a cultural kaleidoscope where different voices, talents, and ideas merged into a symphony that echoed through the streets. The city gathered all these industries in a room and said, "All right, Gold, you're the DJ, but everyone else, feel free to groove to your own beat." As the industries boomed, finance stepped into the limelight. Joburg became the financial heartbeat of South Africa, with banks, insurance companies, and financial institutions setting up camp. The city's streets were like a Wall Street of the Southern Hemisphere. The next logical step for the city's plans was to hitch a ride on the globalization train, connecting itself to the global economic system like a high-speed Wi-Fi connection. Roads, newly developed railways, expressways, and airports were like the veins pumping life into the city, connecting it to the pulse of the global economy. So let's talk about the political dance that Joburg couldn't escape. From its birth, the racial divides of the time were casting a shadow on the city, and laws would eventually be penned that would shape its social landscape for decades to come. It's ironic how the city that welcomed people from all walks of life was now grappling with a racial tango that would leave scars on its history. The industries that once brought people from all walks of life were now subjected to the color line. Laws like the Mines and Works Act of 1911 and the Job Reservation Act of 1956 were like a paintbrush, coloring each profession with racial designations. White-collar jobs became reserved for whites, pushing black South Africans into labor-intensive roles. The Natives Land Act of 1913 and subsequent legislations restricted black South Africans' right to own or lease land outside designated areas, often relegated to rural reserves. These were areas far removed from the buzzing streets of Johannesburg, creating a stark divide between where people lived and where they worked. The city was caught between the promises of progress and the shackles of discrimination. The skyline that glittered with economic prosperity cast shadows on the faces of those marginalized by apartheid. But in the midst of this dark dance, there was a heartbeat of resistance. The people of Joburg, regardless of their race, found themselves entangled in the struggle against apartheid. From the early days, the city became a stage for activism, a place where voices rose against the oppressive laws that sought to divide and conquer. Mahatma Gandhi, the man of peace, walked the streets of Joburg. His time in the city played a crucial role in shaping his philosophy of non-violent resistance. It's like Joburg was a classroom where history was being written, and Gandhi was one of its star pupils. Even Nelson Mandela, a name that would become synonymous with the struggle for freedom, walked the streets of Joburg and was once briefly employed at a mine himself. The city became not just a battleground, but a beacon of resistance, a place where the fight for equality echoed in every corner. The gold beneath its surface wasn't just in the mines, it was in the resilience of its people. A resilience that would forge a path toward a more inclusive, equitable future. In the very city that apartheid sought to segregate, black South Africans were using opportunities to thrive wherever they could. Entrepreneurs were establishing businesses, professionals were slowly breaking through racial barriers. The world also collectively said enough is enough. Sanctions were imposed, and the international community made it clear that apartheid had no place in the global theater. Johannesburg, once a city isolated by discriminatory laws, was now at the epicenter of a global movement for justice that would last until the eventual demise of the apartheid system. Throughout the 20th century, this was not only a city of economic exploits and political struggles, it was a canvas painted with the vibrant strokes of artistic expression. The 20th century saw the cultural scene blossom, bringing forth a symphony of creativity and a kaleidoscope of artistic brilliance. Just imagine the city's legendary smoky jazz joints, where musicians like Hugh Masekela, the man with the golden trumpet, were weaving musical spells that transported the audience to a world where the constraints of apartheid seemed to momentarily disappear. The laughter in these clubs was like a melody of defiance against the oppressive notes of discrimination. In the city's quiet corners, writers like Nadine Gordimer were crafting stories that peeled back the layers of Joburg's social fabric. It's like the city was a canvas, and these wordsmiths were painting narratives that challenged the status quo with strokes of satire, humor, and poignant observation. The stage lights flickering to life as performers like Athol Fugard and Miriam Makeba took center stage. And then there were the visual artists, rebels with a paintbrush. The city's galleries became battlegrounds of expression, where artists like Gerard Sekoto and Dumile Feni painted a visual symphony of resistance. Laughter, they say, is the best medicine, and Joburg had its fair share of comedic healers. Cartoonists like Zapiro used their pens as swords, slicing through the absurdities of apartheid with wit and satire. Comedians took to the stage, turning laughter into a form of resistance, a reminder that even in the darkest times, humor could be a beacon of light. As the 1990s dawned, Johannesburg stood on the precipice of change. The apartheid odyssey was nearing its end. Nelson Mandela, the symbol of resistance, was released from prison in 1990, and he would later be elected as South Africa's first democratic president, a chapter that marked the end to the apartheid regime. As the sun set on apartheid, Johannesburg emerged from the shadows of discrimination into a new economic dawn. The City of Gold redefined its narrative, proving that its economic heartbeat wasn't just a relic of the past. It is the driving force of a dynamic, ever-evolving metropolis, a powerhouse not just in Africa but on the global stage. Today, Joburg Central may not be the financial powerhouse it used to be back in the day, a title that is now proudly worn by its neighbor, Sandton. But let's not forget that Sandton is in a way carrying the torch it took over from Joburg Central forward. Sandton's transformation from agricultural plots to an economic powerhouse mirrors the broader evolution of Johannesburg. The rush for gold saw the suburb shed its pastoral tranquility for the hustle and bustle of economic pursuits in its early days. In the latter half of the 20th century, Sandton took on a new identity. It became the financial epicenter of Johannesburg. Skyscrapers rose like pillars of prosperity, and the suburb's skyline transformed into a testament to economic might. If Johannesburg is the economic heart, Sandton is its financial pulse. Banks, financial institutions, and corporate headquarters have turned the suburb into a nucleus of economic activity. The gold rush may have faded, but Sandton is now in the midst of a wealth rush. Today, Sandton proudly wears the title of the richest square mile in Africa. The suburb stands as a living legacy to the gold days of Johannesburg, now adorned with the wealth and opulence that come with being a prosperous financial hub. It is the epitome of prosperity in the 21st century that stands as a testament to adaptability, growth, and the enduring allure of prosperity. So, the next time you find yourself in the bustling streets of Sandton, amidst the towering skyscrapers and the cosmopolitan buzz, remember that you're not just in a suburb. You're in a living chronicle of Johannesburg's economic saga, a saga that continues to unfold to this very day. While Johannesburg shines as a beacon of progress, it's essential to acknowledge the storm clouds that loom over the city. Challenges that test the resilience of a metropolis that has weathered many storms. One of the foremost challenges Johannesburg faces is the weight of overpopulation. The city, like a magnet, draws people from all corners of the country and beyond. The influx, while a testament to the city's allure, strains resources and infrastructure. Challenges of housing shortages, traffic congestion, and the strain on essential services. Illegal mining has also taken root in areas across the city. Illegal miners, known to the locals as zama-zamas, have taken advantage of the area's abundance in old mining sites that have been abandoned over the years. Some of this mines stem from the days of George Harrison. This poses a problem to the city's failing infrastructure, and law enforcement is finding it hard to tackle the problem. Amidst the glittering skyscrapers and bustling streets, there's also an underbelly of crime that challenges the city's security. From petty theft to more serious offenses, Johannesburg navigates the delicate balance between progress and the imperative to ensure the safety of its residents. The wide gap between the rich and the poor, a challenge faced by many global cities, is a factor that contributes to this. Johannesburg, like any metropolis, faces its share of challenges, yet within the challenges lie opportunities for growth, transformation, and a future where the City of Gold shines not just in economic might, but in its ability to overcome the contemporary trials that accompany urban life in the 21st century. We could go into more details about the issues highlighted here, but that's outside the scope of this video, and stay close to our channel cause, who knows, maybe I'll create a video dedicated to these issues one of these days. And so, as we say goodbye to this economic walk through the streets of Joburg, remember this. This isn't just a city that was built on gold. It's a city that's still building, still growing and still shining, a beacon of prosperity on the African continent and beyond. Fantastic, people. Thanks a million for hanging out with us today. If you had half as much fun watching as we did making this, then we're all winners here. Don't forget to leave us your thoughts, comments, and suggestions in the comments section. If you haven't already smashed that like button, consider giving it a gentle tap. Or a Hulk level smash, whichever suits your mood. And don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell like you're announcing the heavyweight champ. Until next time, stay awesome, and we'll catch you in the next video.